Mga kapuso, may press conference po ngayon sa Palasyo si Cabinet Secretary Jose Rene Almendras na kasama ni Manila Mayor Joseph Estrada nang pumunta siya sa Hong Kong para magsorry sa Manila bus hostage crisis noong 2010. Pakinggan po natin ang bahagi nito.
Team on the Hong Kong side that we were dealing with. The Hong Kong side was headed by Director Edward Yao. Director Edward Yao is the director for the Office of the Chief Executive. Para ho siyang ako. He does not have a portfolio, but he was sort of in charge of moving it there. Of course, with him was the Secretary for Security, T.K. Lai. T.K. Lai was the police official or the head of security who came here he was here the day after the incident in Luneta. He was the one attending to the Hong Kong victims. He was the one who had to welcome all the families come in. So the involvement of Secretary T.K. Lai was very important because he had both a professional and a personal link to the families. Then there was the Undersecretary for Security, John Cassius Lee, who also was part of the team. Permanent Secretary Alice Lau, Deputy Secretary for Security Maggie Wong, Assistant Secretary for Security Amy Wong. And there were many other support staff who were involved in the discussions. The reason why I'm mentioning them is because I want to thank them for the almost 7 months of interaction that we have been having with them. We had our good times and we had a lot of tough times, but in the end we came across, and I would like to acknowledge their professionalism. I am honored at the opportunity to have worked across the table with them. I am pleased to say that they were a formidable team to work with, but I guess in the end we all came out winners. The first meeting was with Chief Executive Yong. I think on the screen you will see me shaking the hand of the Chief Executive when we walked into the room. The first meeting involved only officials of the Hong Kong SAR, the Hong Kong Special Autonomous Region. I think it's the next picture that will show how we were seated. The guy to my left is the Chief Executive, C.Y. Leong. To his left is Edward Yao. That's the guy that my counterpart in Hong Kong. Then there's me, and there's of course former President Mayor Estrada. The room basically was all government officials. The reason why we had to meet first government to government was because about 60% of the documented agreements were all government-to-government issues. We had to settle that, put closure to those issues, agree that we have already resolved and agreed on some of these things. It was also an opportunity for me to express my gratitude to the Hong Kong team. And the Chief Executive himself also acknowledged the Philippine team, and I thought it relevant to inform you that he was so pleased with the results that towards the end of the meeting, he did go up to me and say, "Please tell President Aquino I thank him very much, and I must acknowledge that he is truly a man of his word. I remember our conversation in Bali, and I look forward to meeting him and shaking his hand during the next APEC conference." That first meeting basically resolved all of the government-to-government issues. The next meeting then was all the government officials left, the Chief Executive left, and now we had to meet with the families. This is a picture of the meeting with the families. The gentleman to my left is Chief of Security, or the Secretary for Security of the Hong Kong government, Mr. T.K. Lai. And those are members, the 5 members of the families that decided to be present in the meeting to represent themselves and some of the family groups. Okay, so not all of the families were at the meeting, but there was a real attempt to make sure that the different groups of families were represented. To tell you the truth, we only knew the final composition or the names or who were going to attend that meeting about an hour and a half before the meeting started. because some family members were saying yes, at the last minute they said no, I'm too emotional, I'd rather not, and so on and so forth. And with all due respect, we had to respect the sensitivity of the family members. So what happened during this meeting? Upon the suggestion of the Hong Kong panel, I had to do most of the talking. The issue was, the question was, has always been, there was ill feelings, lack of sincerity, there was suspicion, there was an issue of vested interest as far as the resolutions being presented to the families, both in Hong Kong and in the Philippines. If you will remember, they had their own issues in Hong Kong among the various political agrupations in Hong Kong relative to this issue. I am happy that I expressed my gratitude that they finally agreed to see me. As a matter of fact, it was only last Thursday that the family agreed to meet the Philippine panel, and their condition was that I should be there. The reason for that is I had the posture that I am not a politician, and anything I have to offer them has nothing to do with making me look good, because that was the, kumbaga, pinaka-allergy nila, na ginagamit lang sila ng iba-ibang tao para to pursue their interest. Just to get to that point of their agreeing to see me was a very long struggle for us. So I started the meeting by thanking them for allowing us to finally speak to them. And then I explained and discussed every one of the 4 major demands that they have. On the issue of the apology, I explained to them the complex nature of a national apology or an apology from the President. We discussed many options. The work on the wordings of those letters took us 5.5 months, despite of which I had to express it and say it because I never had a chance to explain it myself to the family. We always went through the Hong Kong representatives because the families refused to meet us from day one. They said, no, we will not meet any Filipino. They were not willing to talk to any Filipino. So that was the first topic. I then addressed the issue of the supposed word of token of solidarity. Then we addressed the third issue, which was the action against those that were negligent. And the fourth issue was on the steps and actions that we took to make sure that it will never happen again. After me, I introduced Mayor President Erap, who read his own statement, who delivered his resolution and expressed his own words. Subsequently, they agreed that only one member of the family will speak, and that is the first guy beside Mr. T.K. Lai. He is the brother of Mas Sa Cheng, the tourist guide who passed away. I need to put into perspective this meeting. The opening line of T.K. Lai when the meeting started was, he said, "We are finally in this meeting, and we consider this as a very solemn meeting." And true enough, in deference to the Chinese cultural sensitivities, we in the Philippine side made sure we respected the solemnity that they asked. So I did not read any statement. I spoke to them directly. Then the brother of the tourist guide who died spoke. It was quite an emotional expression. I heard every word he said, and it made a lot of sense. I guess I can share the fact that his brother was promoting the Philippines, was a tourist guide who was telling people in Hong Kong, the Philippines is a nice place to visit. Come visit the Philippines, because that was his job, bringing them to Manila. And so you can imagine the emotion, the difficulty, na eto na nga siya, pinopromote niyo yung bansa natin, tapos eto pang nangyayari sa kanya. I believe the wife was there. Originally, the mother agreed to attend. That's why there were so many chairs that we had to take out some of them later. Eventually, I think they did not. He also expressed the sentiments, the general sentiments common to all of the victims. Their issues. I guess it was good that it was said. It was good for them to say. It was good for us to hear it. Thereafter, I responded to the statements of the brother. So I had to answer every single item that he mentioned and talked to. I guess I can say that in the end, even while I was telling you, even when I was there talking to them, I had plan 2, plan 3, plan 4. Why? I wasn't sure if they were going to accept us. I wasn't sure whether they were going to agree to all those that we agreed with in the Hong Kong government. Even the Hong Kong government kept on telling us, we cannot be sure on how the family members will react. I remember TK Lai, just 5 minutes before this meeting started, talked to the whole Philippine delegation and said, some of them are still very emotional, so please be ready. Towards the end of that meeting, I guess the feelings and the sentiments started becoming a lot more positive. And the brother did say that, yes, we acknowledge the sincerity, and I need to mention the word sincerity. If you mention, the chief executive mentioned it 2 or 3 times in his press conference. The family members expressed the same thing. That was the most difficult and challenging option that needed to be in place, despite the fact that there were tons and inches of documents that were signed off. At the end of the day, the family said, we will see if the sincerity is there. So I'm happy to report that came across really well. We ended that meeting with me having had a few minutes with each member of the family. By then, I knew exactly who they were, what the circumstances were, what their issues were. When I met Miss Yik is the lady who got hit in the jaw. She was the one that President C.A., the Chief Executive C.Y. Leong described to President Aquino in Bali. And he was very graphic in his description. And that was when the President said, kawawa naman, we need to do something about it. And I told her that it was her story, it was her circumstances that really caused us to reopen the discussions and go to the table again. I told her what the President's instructions to me and President's own view. She was the lady that we helped get an operation in Taipei. If you remember, sometime in November, I did fly to Hong Kong. We did arrange for a few things. We arranged for certain facilities, and then she was able to leave for Taipei to get her surgery, which was very successful. And she did say thank you. I'm happy to report that she, after my short conversation with her, she told me, please thank President Aquino. This is a far cry from what she was saying and what she was complaining in previous press statements in the past. See, these were the more vocal family members who really came out in Hong Kong media, who really expressed themselves and their sentiments. I did have a chance to meet the others and express to them also that I told them, yes, I understood what they were going through. At this point, may I just explain? I know that some of the questions, in Hong Kong yesterday, I was barraged with questions like, magkano, gaano kalaki, and so on and so forth. I need to let you know, not all the families are going to accept a token of solidarity. Why? Because some of them do not believe that it is appropriate for them to accept money in exchange for this. And we are truly, truly appreciative of that belief. There is an extreme sensitivity to that topic. This is precisely why we did not use the word compensation. As I explained during this meeting to the families that no amount can ever compensate for human life. I expressed to them that just like you, we Filipinos, despite the fact na tinatamaan tayo ng bagyo one day and we lose thousands of lives, we still consider human life as very, very important. We ended that meeting in a way I was not sure kung how we were going to proceed thereafter. Were they going to agree to all the terms and agreements that we've had? So I did go back to, where did I go back? After going around, nahilo po ako sa kakaikot ng Hong Kong because ibang klase ang Hong Kong media. We finally ended up in a hotel somewhere to watch the TV to make sure to wait for the statement of the chief executive and the family. Although I had an inclination, I already knew what the chief executive was planning to do. The issue was, after our meeting with the family, the chief executive met with the family. It was only at that time that they can really be sure kung ano na ba talaga, kung nagkaayusan na ba talaga tayo. So I was kind of very happy. I jumped up my seat when I finally heard the Chief Executive come out on TV and says, yes, we are resolved, it is finished, we have come to an agreement, and all sanctions, all the black travel ban and all that will be lifted. So that's what happened. Even down to the detail of what time their press conference was, what time my press conference was, who were going to be at their press conference, who was going to be in our press conference, down to details like moving cars, etc. were quite, were very detailed. Okay, now let me explain bakit the confidentiality of the discussion was very important. Di ba sinabi ko kanina, there were 21 lives that were involved. Siyempre, you can imagine that not all of them will agree on the same thing. So if there was one discussion on one topic that we would agree, maybe 6 families will agree, maybe the rest will not. If there was one action on an item, one wording that we did on an item, maybe acceptable to one group versus the other. I need to let you know that as late as Monday, there were still groups who were trying to scuttle this initiative. There were still people who were still trying to agitate and make sure that this does not push through for various reasons. Maybe they just felt that very strongly about certain things. And in a way, yesterday in my press conference in Hong Kong, I still felt a lot of heat, a lot of, I guess, emotional anchor or ano from some of the media people who were there. So, napaka-importante po that we did not, kumbaga, we did not speak too much out of respect for the sensitivity of the families. And this is why we could not say anything to anyone until such time. I, again, would like to thank the mayor for his patience, because the mayor was already in Hong Kong and he did not even know exactly what was going to happen, what time it was going to happen. I went to see him, I had lunch with him in his hotel yesterday. I was there at about 12 o'clock, and that was the only time that I was able to explain to him in great detail exactly the sequence of events. The reason why I couldn't tell him before that time is hindi pa rin kami nagkatapos ni Edward Yao. We were on the telephone from the time I landed in Hong Kong. I was interacting with them until we finally agreed, eto yung mga nag-confirm, these are the family members who will come. So I hope you understand that the intention was not to keep anything from you. I stand here because now I'm explaining what happened, but there was, out of respect po for cultural sensitivities and I guess the humane side of this whole initiative, I can let you know that while the Philippine team, we had lawyers and consultants in Hong Kong, we had advisors, even religious opinions at certain point. I went to see Dr. Palanca of the Confucius Center of Ateneo de Manila. I spent time with her to understand the cultural sensitivities to how things are done. I learned that in certain cultures, sometimes the delivery and the tone is even more important than the message. And that is what worked for us in this case. We're happy that it has come to a solution. We're very happy that we are where we are now. It is the beginning of a new journey. We accept the fact, as per the statement of the brother of Masa Cheng, he said, we are turning a new leaf. It doesn't mean it's over. For some of us, it will never be over because the loss of life will forever be in our minds, and we do not want to forget those that have passed on. But what we have now is we have a moving on process. As we speak, the Hong Kong government is still interacting with other family members who are not present there. Letters are being delivered, documents are being turned over, exchanged, and hopefully signatures are being generated so that we can finally bring this to a closure. I am hopeful, and by all indications, we will be able to reach that. We've settled with the Hong Kong government. That issue is done. That's why the Hong Kong government has lifted all the sanctions. But now we are addressing the individual concerns and issues of each of the families involved. And I ask for the indulgence, as I asked Hong Kong media yesterday, who was pressing me for so many details, that because of that reality that we are still trying to address some of the issues of the families, huwag na muna natin pag-usapan, huwag muna natin painitin, kasi let's give them time to adjust. The other issue nga pala, because I was being asked, what's the difference between just giving it and doing it this way? Well, the truth is, some families wanted to move on. And moving on is not about being paid or receiving money. Moving on is about accepting certain realities and moving on. My wife kasi works as a counselor for married people, for people who passed on and all that. And I remember my wife always telling me na hindi ganun kadali. Sometimes closure to a traumatic experience requires certain events. And so we had to address some of those things ourselves. Those are some of the issues that over 3-4 dozen issues that details that had to be worked out individually with each one so that we help them move on. The chief executive, Siwel Yong, in his speech, in his statement, did say that now we must move and help these families move on, because that's really where we are today. Okay, maybe I should stop talking, or do you want me to answer all the questions you sent me by text? Let me answer one of the first questions that some of you have sent me by text.
Mga kapuso, yan po ang press conference ni Cabinet Secretary Jose Rene Almendras tungkol sa kanyang pagpunta sa Hong Kong kahapon at pakikipag-usap sa mga opisyal ng gobyerno doon. At sinabi nga niya na pati yung mga kaanak ng mga biktima ng Manila Bus Hostage Crisis ay nakaharap nila at sila nga raw ay times emotional. Pero nagpasalamat si Almendras sa mga opisyal ng Hong Kong government para sa kanilang pakikipag-ugnayan at pakikipagnegosasyon sa kanila. At gaya nga ng sinabi ni Almendras ay sila po ay nakapag-settle na ng Hong Kong government at sa kanilang pananaw ay natapos na rin ang usapin sa isyung ito.